Do you use Flatpaks? Would you pay for them? This is a good question to ask, and also a way that we can pay developers in an easier model. So today we're going to have a look at Flatpak's new discussion around creating a new organization and allowing an easier way to donate to the developers or even purchase some Flatpaks going forward. Let's go ahead and discuss. Welcome back to Switch to Linux. Well, today we do want to discuss Flatpaks, and we want to talk about the new way that they are looking at attempting to create a foundation by which they can collect payments through the system. And it's going to possibly have some really good benefits for developers, and there's some questions about it as well. And I want to get into some of those. If you like this type of content, please feel free to subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so. Leave us a like and let us know in the comments below what you think about this topic and Flatpaks and a payment system. With that, let's go ahead and dive right on in. And what we want to look at here is the particular articles. We'll start with an It's FOSS news article about this. So their article, and this is written by Saurav Rudra, Flathub to introduce paid apps and easy donation options. So, of course, Flathub is the official source for Flatpaks. Of course, the Flatpak technology is an open source system. It, unlike Snap, it is not a locked in, is not a proprietary or centralized area. Any system that supports Flatpak, you can add Flatpak repositories. The most popular of those is Flathub. And so Flathub is that central place where you go and you look for all that software. This is the one that has all the verification stuff in place and things like that. Now, anybody can create their own Flatpak repository, and then anybody that is running Flatpaks can run those custom repositories into their system and install Flatpaks off of that. So just be aware that this is not a centralized system, whereas the Snap infrastructure is all centralized and the distribution method is proprietary, which is why Flatpak, by and large, is the much more popular way of distributing software. Now, Flatpak is also one of the things that leads to this utilization of immutable Linux distributions, as the immutable core carries with it all of the main operating system, just like the Android device might, and then the applications carry with it everything running for the application in a unified central package. And so we have a lot of positives in the direction, and what we're seeing right now in the Linux world is more Linux distributions are dropping Snap support that are outside of Ubuntu, we should say, and focusing and prioritizing on the Flatpak support. So Flathub has become a large place where people will distribute software, being the most official way and the biggest and probably safest of the stores to use. And so looking at this, they wanted to evaluate ways moving forward to maintain their own project, because it is still an open source system. Now, it is open sourced and it is supported generally by the GNOME Foundation and KDE as well. And so what they're doing right now is they are actually looking at creating a foundation here, basically a company. So a announcement request from a couple of days ago. This is on the 6th. We're recording this on the 9th, so I think that's Thursday, I believe. GNOME Foundation is seeking a contractor to help with program management, financial, legal setup, and public outreach to bootstrap Flathub LLC. This work was funded by Endless. So, of course, Endless is the Linux distribution and the company behind it, which seeks to empower education. And basically, their goal is to proliferate computer science throughout the world, even on devices and locations where internet access is difficult. This is like the largest Linux distribution to download. Even a few years ago, when things were still under like 2 or 3 gigabytes, this one was 16 gigabytes. Why is it so big? Well, it has like an up-to-date snapshot of Wikipedia and Stack Overflow and a bunch of other things, so you can actually look up a lot of information without having an internet connection. And so they reach out and do a lot of STEM research and education, and healthcare are their primary places where they go. And they develop a Linux distribution called Endless OS based on, I think at one point it might have been based on Debian. I'm not sure if it still is or not. But this distribution allows you to install it and utilize a lot of major popular aspects of the internet research-wise without actually having an internet connection, which is why it's so big. And so this is a company with a lot of backing and funding, and so they're actually helping to fund it. So, of course, they have a 3-month time period to run this out, and they have an available budget of $12,000. And effectively, what they're trying to do is they want to create a system inside of Flatpak that is going to, okay, here's their successful things here. No, that's actually what the candidate's supposed to do. There you go. Here's the key objectives. Number 1, launch payment and donation systems for applications and Flathub itself. So you can make a donation into Flathub, or you can make a donation to an application on Flathub. Number 2 is establish operational governance. Number 3, coordinate the financial and legal operations. And number 4, ensure community engagement and transparency. And so what the idea here is that they wanted to create an LLC founded in the United States, and that LLC in the United States would oversee, basically it would be a company behind Flatpak to break its financial dependencies off of GNOME and KDE and things like that. And so it's a really good goal here. So those are just revamping it. Some people have questioned why do this in the United States because of the privacy issues. And they have a really good response from Robert McQueen, the president of the GNOME Foundation, said Flathub itself, I don't think it's a particularly huge deal for data privacy because, number 1, we are not going to collect much user data at all. That's just not the interest and relevance to our purpose. And the more we collect, the more risks and complexity around compliance, consent removal, etc. So that's a good response. If they're not trying to collect a bunch of data in this, that is fine. And B, even if it's headquartered in the United States, by operating servers and serving users in the EU, Flathub still has to comply with, the various EU regulations as well. And so it's not a bad thing that it's going in the United States. There's pros and cons of working with any particular system. Now, let's get into what they wanted to do. First and foremost, they want to integrate transactions through Stripe. Now, I do have a question about this, and it's one that has come up recently because as I switched a lot of my sites from WordPress to Joomla, because, WordPress and Automatic are going out the window. One of the challenges with Joomla is there's not nearly as many good free plugins as there are, and so I'm paying more developers, which is good because, in all honesty, the plugins I've purchased for Joomla sites, when I've had support questions, they are on the support questions. We had an instance where we were setting up a shop for somebody, and the default plugin we had bought and downloaded utilized the legacy Stripe API plugins. And I contact them about that, like, oh, you just didn't download the new API one. So now I actually have a copy of both payment plugins, one for the old APIs and one for the new APIs. They're really fast at responding to stuff. The problem is they're based in Singapore. And the reason that's a problem is Singapore is where a lot of hacking and malicious attempts and things like that come from. And so when I went to purchase the new version of the software, as we needed to upgrade our site, well, I found out in the last 6 months that my bank has blocked all transactions from Singapore. And so I purchased the website from them through PayPal, but PayPal is processing my card to a Singapore company, and so my credit card is declined. I'm like, what's going on? I call in the bank and like, yeah, we've blocked Singapore. Like, well, it's probably a good idea, especially since when I pull up the attempting hacking into my website, Singapore's usually at the top of that list. In fact, I went in the next day and I looked at the WordFence logs for a WordPress site for one of my clients, and like number one, I think, was either Ukraine or Russia, and with a lot of hits. And then 2, 3, 4, and 5 were all Singapore. Like, okay. getcha. So we did have to unlock had to contact my bank and have them unlock Singapore for 24 hours so I could purchase the software from these competent developers. I just wish there was some in the United States that would be developing software, because I would love to pay the United States for the software. And so that's the biggest first question I have, is with the people developing software all around the internet. Now it says processing via Stripe. My guess is what this is going to be is just like Odyssey. If you're watching this video over on Odyssey, you can actually go down and hit the support or tip or donation button to this channel, and you can pay me on Odyssey. When you click that button, it opens up a Stripe processing, and it basically integrates by saying that I have attached my Stripe account onto my Odyssey account, so I can accept donations, payments, tips, and things like that on Odyssey through this. It works the same with the Locals account, switchedtolinux.locals.com. And so all that is processed through a Stripe account. So my question is if these guys are using Stripe, does Stripe report back to that country? So if I have another Singapore open source project that I would like to support, am I going to have issues, or are all of the transactions going through the United States? This is a good question that I have. Of course, I'm United States based. How are other countries regarding payments in United States? So how they're integrating this, but what my guess is that they're going to be doing is a developer, which is probably a verified developer. Let's take LibreOffice, for example. The LibreOffice Foundation is an official, they have an official Flatpak. They're officially in Flathub. If you go and download the Flatpak version of the software, then it is verified. So then the LibreOffice team would then have the option to add their Stripe account. And if I go to Flathub and hit pay right there, or donate to the LibreOffice Foundation, then that would go from Flathub's page, and they might take a small cut off of that. They might not. I don't know. Haven't seen any documents about what they're doing. But then you make the payment through their page. It integrates in Stripe's API, and then the payment processes through Stripe, and then the foundation then would get the money. And so the question is, where are all of these transactions going to be processed from? If I am in Germany, for example, and I want to do this, am I paying a Germany company, or am I paying a United States company? Now, there's probably not any issues if I have to buy something from Germany, but again, if I have to buy something from Singapore, that becomes a challenge. And so with all of that, there are some concerns about that. Now, the good thing here is that we have the possibility of having one central location inside of Flathub by which you can click a button, donate, and make a payment. Now, is this effective or not? Maybe it depends on how you are making this work. We know that a long time ago, Ubuntu had free and paid software in their software store, and they dropped the payment stuff because it just wasn't very viable. Right now, Elementary OS runs with a similar model where you can easily pay the developers through their package manager, which is a good thing for developers. And some of the software you have to pay for it. Some of the software, they suggest a donation, but you can change that to 0 and download it for free. So there are options. I haven't seen any numbers about how much money people are making through that store. Now, would this work or not? While 10 years ago, when Ubuntu had paid software, it didn't work, I almost think if they instituted a similar thing now, it might. And the reason is, I don't think people are as concerned about paying for software as they were, as long as the software is good and privacy focused and well functions and is well supported. And so overall, I think this is a really good idea. It will make donating to the various projects you're using a lot more viable. And since more people are using Flatpaks, and Flatpaks become the main model of distributing software in immutable distributions, this is actually probably a really good forward-thinking idea. And so I look forward to seeing what happens down the road. The rest of this article just kind of talks about what they're looking for as far as who's buying it. But again, this is really nice in that you could, in theory, just land on the Flatpak page. Now, here's some of the downsides, a couple more downsides to it. Number one, if this is only on the website, not a lot of people go to the Flatpak website. I might go there if I'm searching for a software package, but it depends. If I'm using Linux Mint, where I can search for the whole Flatpak store on my Linux Mint software installer, are they going to supply an option where I can pay either Flatpak or the developer through that? Are we going to see maybe what Flatpak should probably do is have a Flatpak GUI installer like the Snap Store does. The Snap Store is a really good thing for Snap, because even if I'm on a distribution that doesn't have a good GUI software manager, let's just take Endeavor OS. I don't believe has a software manager by default, depending on which desktop environment you're doing. Well, if you want to use Snaps and you install Snapd, the first thing you do is install Snap Store. Now you have a GUI Snap management system, which is really good. So I think the Flathub team probably would benefit from having a standalone application, because there's several distributions that some people still struggle getting Flatpak and Flathub set up, even though it is fairly easy to do. But if they were to create their own store, any system that is using Flatpak could install Flatpak Store, have a GUI store, and that GUI store, they can control what's on it, so they can put the payment options right there. Now, obviously, other stores like the GNOME Software Store and Discover Now, which can integrate just fine inside of Flatpak, will they have the option to make those payment options or not? I don't know. In that instance, people are still going to be required to go to the website for this. So I don't know how viable it's going to be long term, but I do think it is a really good option to be able to figure out how to pay, especially the less known developers. Obviously, LibreOffice is the one we were talking about. Very easy. Go to their site, and their donation pages are very present. But some of the smaller software, it may be harder to find, or you may not want to donate how they're doing it. Having a one unified central location might be a really good place. Then the question is Flatpak collecting the money and then distributing that to the developers, or is it going directly to the developers? Intuition tells me it might be going directly to the developers, because that's generally how the Stripe API works. So that is my thoughts and my takes. Overall, I think this is a great idea. Can't wait to see what they do with it. Let me know your thoughts about this down below. Would you pay for the software inside of the Flatpak store, or do you think that that's too tacky, out of the way? Would you use a donation button on that or not? Let me know those in the comments down below. With that, thank you for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.